Hello, hello, hello. What day is this? Wednesday. It is Money Making Wednesday today on Nick at Noon. Welcome back. Let's do a quick tech check before we get into the content today. If you can see and hear me okay, please drop a yes in the comments because I say it all the time. There is nothing worse than going through a whole live episode and nobody can see or hear you because nobody told you that they couldn't see you or couldn't hear you. Listen, I'm super excited about today's episode. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. I am super about today's episode because y'all know that I am all about the premium pricing. I am all about high ticket offers. And if you work with me, if you have worked with me, you know that I encourage all of my clients to price their offers no less than $2,000 to start. So, hearing that your price is too expensive, that is something that is undoubtedly going to happen in your journey as a coach, particularly if you go through any of my programs or if you've worked with me directly. So, specifically, what we're going to be talking about today are the four versions of the too expensive objection and which one you will be dealing with. We'll be talking about the three costs of discounting that go far beyond the revenue, y'all. You know, this coaching space, when you get into it, it is, yes, it's about the money. We don't ever want to minimize the income and the revenue, but it is always so much deeper in that. We're also going to be talking about a framework. I'm going to be giving you a framework, and here's a preview. It is the Pause, Clarify, Reconnect, and Decide framework, and it's going to be what you leverage to handle objections with confidence. We're going to be talking about how to reconnect to value in a way that shifts the frame without feeling manipulative in your sales conversations. We're going to be talking about the difference between discounting your offer and a creative structure for your offer and which one you should use at the appropriate time. And then we're going to be getting into why the too expensive objection is a filtering mechanism and it is not a price correction. So we have a whole lot to cover today. So we're just going to jump right into it, okay? Because here's the deal. If you work with me and you're pricing your coaching offer at $2,000 or more, someone is going to tell you that you're too expensive. If they haven't yet, trust me, they will. And the moment that happens, everything you believe about your pricing, everything you believe about your value, everything you believe about your right to charge what you charge, it gets tested in real time. And most coaches, they fail that test. And it isn't because they lowered their prices. They fail that test because they lowered their prices before they even need to. And so today I want to give you a different response to the "you're too expensive" objection. I'm going to give you a response that doesn't require you to discount or require you to justify. I'm going to give you a response that comes from a place of clarity and conviction. Somebody drop conviction in the comments. I'm going to give you a response that comes from a place of clarity and conviction rather than fear and apology. Welcome back to another episode of Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott, and I'm the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit. We are an online coaching platform where we help professional women turn their existing skills into multiple streams of income through coaching and digital products. And we do this without encouraging our clients to leave their 9-to-5s. We do not subscribe to the hustle or burnout culture over here at Her Income Edit. And you don't have to start from scratch when you work with us. Today is Money Wednesday. We talk about money, all things money here on Nick at Noon on Wednesday. And before we get into today's episode, I have to mention real quick, I've been talking about it all month, and I'll probably be talking about it all next month too. But I'm hosting a live workshop on May 30th. It is called Her Income Lab. Registration opens in May. Yay! But until then, you can get on the wait list. So you can get access to the special waitlist pricing that is only going to be available to waitlist members. And you will also have first dibs, first grabs at the limited seating that I'm going to be having for this workshop. So the link for the workshop is in the description of this video if you are watching on YouTube, or you can head over to my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop. If you haven't already, go get your notebook or your pen, or pop open a notes app on your phone or whatever it is that you take notes on. Share this episode with your biz bestie. And if you have any questions or comments as I'm going through this content, if you're watching live, drop them in the chat, because I will be pausing here and there throughout this presentation so that I can get to your questions and comments. If you are watching this on the replay, just leave a comment and I will get to it, because we are about to get into this conversation, because I think it is so very important. What do you do when someone says you are too expensive? Are you ready to talk about it? If you are ready to talk about it, give me a yes in the comments. Before I give you a response to the too expensive objection, I want to spend some time on what the objection actually says to you, because I think most coaches respond to the surface level of the objection rather than the deeper meaning of it. And responding to the surface, it produces a surface level outcome. So when someone says you're too expensive, they're almost never saying the dollar amount that you're saying is literally more money than any human being should ever spend on coaching. They're almost never saying that. They're saying one of several things, and understanding which one of these things they're saying, it determines everything else about how you should respond when someone says that your price is too expensive. So the first thing that they might be saying is, I don't see the value clearly enough to justify this investment. And honestly, this is the most common version of the too expensive objection, and it has nothing to do with your price. It has nothing to do with your price. It has everything to do with how clearly the value you deliver was articulated. Because when the value of your coaching isn't clear, the price floats disconnected from anything that's concrete, and it literally just hits as just a number. And a number without context, it's evaluated against other numbers the person already has in her head. So she might be thinking about her gym membership or her Netflix subscription or other things that she spent similar amounts of money on. And coaching without a clear value frame, it loses that comparison every single time. It loses that comparison every single time. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. I see you on YouTube. So the second thing that they might be saying when they say that your price is too expensive or you're too expensive is, the price is right, but the timing is wrong. So your potential client genuinely wants what you have to offer in this situation because she can clearly see the value. But her financial reality of this specific moment in her life, it makes the investment feel impossible right now. And that is real. Like, life be life. And we had that conversation last week. This is a real objection and it deserves a real response. It doesn't deserve a discount, but it does deserve a real response. But a real conversation about timing, about what's possible, about whether there's a structure that could work for where she is right now, that is a real conversation that needs to be had. So the third thing that your prospective client, your potential client might be saying when they say you're too expensive or your price is too high is, I'm not convinced enough to invest at this level. And here's the thing about this one. This one right here, this one is the hardest one to hear because it means your sales conversation, it wasn't received the way that you thought it was going to be received. Like it just didn't land, it didn't hit, they're not feeling it. That the trust isn't there yet. The certainty that this is the right solution, it isn't strong enough to justify the investment that you're asking for. And the response to this version, again, it is not to lower your price. It is more conversation. It is giving more clarity. It is providing more evidence that what you offer produces the outcome your potential client is looking for. Because listen, lowering your price, it's not going to increase her confidence in the outcome. All it does is it makes your offer cheaper. That's it. And a cheap bet on something that she's not even confident about in the first place, it is still a bet that she's not willing to make. So lowering your price, it doesn't really fix that either. So the fourth and last thing that they might be saying when they say you're too expensive is, now I've had this one too. I always push back on prices just to see what happens. Like it's just an invitation to negotiate. And the fact of the matter is some people negotiate as a reflex. Because what's the word? Listen, if I ask for a discount and you say no, where does that leave me? Like nothing changes. Like it doesn't change anything. So what is the worst that could happen if you ask for a discount? So for some people, that that spirit of negotiation, it is just a natural reflex. So they push back on every single price they hear just to see if it's going to move. And it isn't because the price is a problem, but it's because they've learned that prices often move when you push. When you push, like here's when I'm in a negotiation, let's say the last time I had to negotiate my salary, I always ask for more. In a performance review conversation, I always asked for more. I always asked for more because what is the worst they could say? No. Okay, well then, you know what? I'm still in the same position that I was in. So, but at least I asked. At least I shot my shot to see if you were going to budge. So, I might be in some of those situations one of those people that just has a natural instinct, and the spirit of negotiation is just all over me because it's like, why not? And again, it's not because the price is the problem. It's not because the salary that you first offered me was the problem. It's because I have learned that prices and salaries and there are things that move when you kind of push back. But here's how I want you to operate in your coaching business. Because if you move when someone pushes, you have confirmed to that person that the first price that you gave them, that it wasn't real. And that means that every future conversation, it's going to start with a negotiation instead of a decision. And here's the thing about those four scenarios that I just went through. Understanding which version of too expensive you're dealing with, that is the first step in understanding how to deal with it. And most of the time, you can find out which one of these versions of too expensive you're dealing with by asking one simple but very direct question. And that question is, can you tell me more about what you mean by that? Is it the overall investment or the timing that's a concern? What is it? Can we talk about that? Because what that question does is it gives you the information that you need to respond to what's happening rather than what you're afraid might be happening. So you're speaking directly to the prospective clients, to the potential clients, what's happening in their life, not what you think is happening or what you feel is happening. You ask these questions, you listen to what they have to say, and then you adjust your dialogue based on that. We are not discounting in 2026. We're not doing it. We are going to say our price and we're going to hold firm because we are valuable. Like this is what the value is. Now, I already kind of touched on this a little bit, and it was about discounting and how I literally just said we're not going to be discounting in 2026 or 2027 or whatever year you just happen to stumble across this video. We're not discounting in that year either. But I do want to take just a minute to talk about discounting, like straight up. I want to have a real conversation about it because I think most coaches they instinctively reach for a discount when they hear too expensive. And I want to take just a minute to give you a clear picture of what that costs you beyond immediate revenue. So before we got into this conversation, I kind of alluded and gave a preview of what we were going to be talking about. And here's the thing about the coaching industry altogether. If you are thinking about getting into this space, I want you to understand that the money is important. Yes, the money is important. The income is important. We are editing income over here. The revenue is important. The Stripe notifications, they're important. But it is so much deeper than that. Like my job as a coach, it is so much deeper than just the money. And so I really just want to have a conversation about this discounting because on the surface, again, it seems like, oh, well, it's Money Wednesday on Nick at Noon. So, of course, all we're talking about is the money, but understand that it's deeper than that. Okay. So, if you have not been taking notes already, this might be a point in the conversation where you might want to start jotting some things down. Because again, the costs of discounting, it's more than just immediate revenue. Okay. So I'm going to give you some costs of discounting. So the very first cost of discounting is what it communicates about your original price. And I kind of alluded to this a few seconds ago. Because when you discount, what you're really saying is the price that I just told you, that is not real. You're saying that there was a real price for my offer underneath that price, and this discounted rate that I'm giving you, that's more closely aligned with the real price of what it is. And here's the danger in that, because once a potential client knows that your prices are negotiable, the negotiation becomes a standard part of every sales conversation, not just the one that you're currently in, but every future one after that, because your prospective client is going to share that information. And the people that this person refers, they're going to come in expecting the same flexibility. Well, you gave Marissa a discount. What's different between me and Marissa? And the thing about it is, your pricing authority and the confidence and the clarity with which you hold your investment, it will erode conversation by conversation because you gave a discount one time. And Marissa, she went and told all her friends about it. So that is the first cost of discounting, and that is what it communicates about your price. So the second cost of discounting is what it does to your client relationship. So a client who got a discount, she knows that she got a discount. You know that she got a discount. And the knowledge of the fact that she got a discount, it shapes the relationship between the two of you in subtle but significant ways. So your client, she might wonder if she's getting the full experience or is she getting a discounted version of the experience. She may feel less invested in the outcome because she invested less in the process. She may be harder to hold accountable. This one right here. She might be harder to hold accountable because the financial commitment isn't as significant. And for you, you might not be as invested in her transformation because you know that she didn't pay the full price. And here is what I have seen happen time and 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 time again. The clients who invest the most are almost always the most engaged. They're the most committed, and they're the ones who get the best results. Hands down. Hands down. Trust me when I say that. And it's not because the coaching is different. It's because their investment, it makes them different. It's because the investment, it makes them different. When you've paid significantly, when you've paid a significant amount for something, you show up differently. That's just human nature. You do the work, you implement the feedback, and you take the commitment seriously. And the discount that gets you a client, it can get you a client who doesn't do the work. And a client who doesn't do the work doesn't get results. And a client who doesn't get results doesn't give you a testimonial. And a client who doesn't give you a testimonial, it does not refuel. It does not fuel the referral engine that makes your next sale, your next 5 sales, your next 10 sales easier. Listen, the discount is costing you more than revenue. The revenue is important. We will never minimize the importance of revenue and income and money and assets here in Her Income Edit or on Nick at Noon. However, this is so much deeper than that. So the third cost of discounting is what it does to your own belief in your pricing. Every single time you fold on your price, you deposit a small piece of evidence that the original price wasn't justified, that the market agreed it was too high, that you don't deserve to charge what you said you were going to charge. And those deposits, they accumulate into a story about your pricing that makes it harder and harder for you to hold your price in future conversations. Let me just say it clearly. Your pricing is a statement of your belief. Somebody drop belief in the comments. And if you're taking notes, I want you to personalize this because this is so important. Belief and mindset is so important in this space. If you're taking notes, I want you to write down, my pricing is a statement of my belief. And the way that you hold on to your pricing under pressure, that is part of what builds or erodes your belief over time. You see how this is so much deeper than money, than income, than revenue, than pricing. Now, at the beginning of this episode, I said that I was going to give you a framework. And that's what I'm going to do now. And I gave you just a preview of what that framework was. So I want to give you a framework for handling the too expensive objection without discounting, because we are not discounting in 2026. Somebody drop in the comments, we are not discounting, period. And here's the thing that I want to give you, this framework. I want to give you this framework because I want to give you something that is practical that you can work with, something that you can actually lead this conversation and put into practice. And this framework, it has 4 parts. The first part is pause. The second part is clarify. The third part is reconnect. And the last part of this framework is to decide. Okay? Listen, if you are under the sound of my voice right now and you have felt something, this conversation has already given you a little bit of fire inside you. It's giving you some nuggets to think about. It gave you some things that make you go, if that is you, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps me out so much. So let's get into this framework. The first part of this framework is pause. So when someone says that you're too expensive, the instinct for you is to respond immediately, right? It is, you want to justify it. You want to explain, you want to soften the price. But here's what I want you to do because you're listening to this conversation. I want you to resist that instinct. I want you to pause. I want you to take a breath. And I want you to let the statement process without rushing to manage it. Because that pause, it does something important. It communicates that you heard the concern without being destabilized by it. It says that you're not scrambling and that you're confident enough in your pricing to take a moment to process before you respond. And that confidence, it's felt by the person on the other side of your conversation. So that's the pause. The second part of this framework for handling you're too expensive objection, the second part is to clarify. So after you pause, I want you to ask the question that gives you the information that you need. And here are the questions that I want you to follow up with after they said that you're too expensive, after you paused. Can you tell me more about what you mean? Is it the overall investment or is it the timing? What would you need to be true for this to feel like the right investment? And here's the thing. Those questions, they're not stalling tactics. Those questions are genuine inquiry into what is actually going on with your potential client. Because the answer to those questions almost always tells you which version of too expensive you're dealing with. Remember, we talked about those 4 versions earlier? So the answer to those questions, it almost always gives you an answer to which one of those versions you're dealing with in that conversation. And then that tells you then how you should respond. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? So the third part of this framework for handling the too expensive objection is the reconnect. So this is the part of the conversation where you take the conversation back to your value. And you don't do it in a defensive way or as a justification for your price because your price is the price. So go back to the value as a genuine reconnection to why the investment matters. And this could sound something like, Amy, let me ask you something. When you think about the situation you described at the beginning of our conversation, what does it cost you to stay in it for another 6 months or maybe even another year? Because that question right there does something powerful. It shifts the perception from what your coaching costs to what it costs your client to stay stuck for another 6 months or another year. And for most women who are dealing with a real problem that's really agitating them, the cost of staying stuck is significantly higher than the cost of the coaching. And that's where the value comes in. And then what happens is that investment that you're asking, it suddenly looks different when it's placed next to the cost of not investing. What is it going to cost you to stay stuck? And it's not because your price changed. It's because the context at which you presented your price changed, right? So the fourth part of this framework is the decision. And so when you're handling the "you're too expensive" objection in your sales conversations, after you've done the pause, after you've asked these questions, after you've done these things, now is the decision. So after the pause, after the clarification, and after the reconnect back to your value, you give your potential client a real choice, a real decision that needs to be made. And I don't want you to give one that is manipulated or false urgency. I want you to give your client a genuine decision point. And this might sound like, Amy, I really want this decision to be something that you feel confident about. If the investment is genuinely not right for you, for where you are right now, I completely understand that. And if the value feels clear and the concern is more about the timing, let's talk about whether there's a structure that could work. But I want to make sure that this decision is based on what you believe is possible for you, not based on the discomfort of the number that you just heard. And so the response to that statement, it does several things at once. Number one, it honors your potential client's autonomy. Like, it doesn't undermine her at all. It acknowledges the real concern without validating the objection as the reason to lower the price. We are not discounting in 2026. Somebody drop in the comments, we are not discounting. Because what this does is it opens a door to creative structure if timing is the real issue. And also, the other thing that this does is it keeps the decision grounded in value and the possibility rather than in price comparison. Like, we're not compared. You're one of a kind. We can't compare you to anybody else. You can't compare me to anybody else. There's just one of us. And so after you've said that statement, after you've made this decision point, you stop talking. Stop talking, let her decide. And whatever she decides, you accept it without desperation, because a yes that comes from genuine conviction is worth infinitely more than a yes that came from a discount. We are not discounting our prices. We're not discounting our prices. Now, I want to address the difference between discounting and creative structure. Now, you just heard me say in the decision part of this framework that there might be a time where you might need to offer a creative structure. And this is something that I leverage in my business actually quite often. So I think it's very important that I talk about creative structure, because it's not discounting. And I just want to lay that out there just real plainly. And I just believe that those two, they get mixed up in a way that leads for some coaches to discount when the creative structure was the right answer. Okay. So, what is discounting? I mean, just for the context of this conversation, discounting is reducing the total investment without changing the offer. So let's just say you were charging $2,000 and then something came up. Oh, you're too expensive. Oh, wait. Well, you can pay $1,500. So you have the same offer, but they're paying less money. And that's discounting. And the cost to discounting that I talked about, those three costs to discounting, they apply to this specific situation that I described. So creative structure is changing how the investment is made without changing the total investment. I'm going to say that again because this is really important. Creative structure is changing how the investment is made without changing the total investment. And so this could look like a payment plan. It could look like a different starting point. It could look like a phased approach that starts with a smaller engagement and then it scales. And a discount and a creative structure, those are two different things. And a creative structure is sometimes exactly the right response to a timing objection. So if someone says the investment feels right, but they truly, honestly, wholeheartedly, and genuinely can't do it all at once right now, a payment plan that makes the same investment accessible over time, that is not a discount. Oh, and also, pro tip, when people make payments over time, you actually increase the price because you're increasing your risk and your workload by going after those payments. So it is not a discount. And as a matter of fact, it's oftentimes higher than if your client would have made the upfront payment. So what we're doing here is we're giving your client a structure that serves her, whether it's a payment plan, right? And it serves your client without undermining the value of what you're offering. It respects your time, it respects your value, it respects your work. And the key distinction in all this is discounting changes the price so that you get a yes. Creative structure, it changes the accessibility of the investment to make the yes possible. One of those, discounting, comes from a scarcity mindset. The other of those, creative structure, it comes from a service mindset. I say it here on Nick at Noon all the time. We are servants in this industry. If you are not here to be of service to your clients, what are you doing? We should always have our clients at the nucleus and at the center of everything that we do. We shouldn't sacrifice service for the sake of scarcity. Because the fact is, your clients can feel the difference. Your clients can feel desperation. And they can also feel when you genuinely, truly, and authentically are serving them and are keeping them at the forefront. So when you offer a payment plan, you're saying, I want to make this work for you without compromising what I believe this is worth. Belief. Somebody dropped belief in the comments. We talked about that a little bit earlier in this conversation. If you missed it, you can watch the replay on my YouTube channel. When you offer a discount, you're saying you were right, client. What I said was too much money. Sorry, my bad. So offer creative structure freely when the concern is truly timing. I want you to hold your price firmly when the concern is value. Hold your price regardless. But if it's value, and like I said at the beginning, you are charging what you're worth. You're charging based out of value, not based off of what you've seen other people charge or what you think, Nick might make Nick happy. You're charging what you're worth, and it is based off value. And in fact, there's a whole framework and pricing calculator that my clients inside of Ignite have access to that plainly maps this out for you. And here's the thing. If you can't tell which it is, if you can't tell if it's a timing concern or if it's a value concern, I want you to go back to the clarify step that we just talked about in that 4-part framework. And again, if you missed the 4-part framework, you can catch it on the replay of this video. Now, I want to widen the lens on this conversation for just a moment and connect this conversation to something much, much bigger, because I think when people say that you're too expensive, it's truly a microcosm of a bigger conversation about what women believe their work is worth. Belief. Here comes that word again. It's belief. Thanks for joining. I see you on YouTube. So here's the pattern that I have seen over and over and over and over and over again. Women who are building coaching businesses from their existing skills almost universally undercharge when they start. I'm trying to think back from all the clients that I've worked with over the years. Every single client that I personally have worked with over the years, and I've been doing this since 2019, online coaching, every 100% of them have undercharged when they started. In fact, one of my clients, and I've spoken about her before on Nick at Noon, Miss J, when we worked together, she raised her prices not once, not twice, but 3 times when we were working together. Because by the end of our time together, she realized that she was penny pinching herself through her business. Like she was working weight. She was charging $500 for an 8-week container. $500. Anyway, I digress, right? So the women who are building coaching businesses from their existing skills, they almost universally undercharge when they start. And in my experience, it has been 100% of the time. And when these women hear the too expensive objection, they treat it as confirmation of what they secretly believed about their pricing and they believed about themselves to begin with. Somebody dropped belief in the comments. They believed, you know what, this price is too high. They believe I overreached. They believe secretly, right? They secretly believed that they should have asked for less. But here's what I want you to know about the too expensive objection. The same offer at the same price will receive that objection from some people, but not from others. The same offer at the same price will receive the too expensive, your price is too high objection from some people and not from others. And the people who say that it's too expensive, they're not representative of the market. Now, I want to slow down and say what I'm about to say because I just mentioned that we are in a service-based industry and that our clients should be at the center and the forefront and the nucleus of everything that we do as coaches. So I really want to be careful when I say this, but I want you to hear it for what I am about to say. Let me rewind and set this up properly. The people who say that your price is too expensive, they are not representative. They are not representative of the market. They're representative of the people who are not the right fit for you right now. Pricing should do a couple of things. It should attract and it should repel. The same as your messaging, it should attract and it should repel. So those people are not representative of the market. They're representative of people who are not the right fit for you right now. And treating their objection as market research about your pricing is like treating one person's preference as representative of everyone else's. I like to wear black all the time. Does that mean that you like to wear black all the time? No, that's it. No, it doesn't, right? So your price should never be set by the person who pushes back. It is set by the value of the transformation you deliver. It is set by the sustainability of the business that you're building. It is set by the clients who say yes at the price. And then those clients go on to do the work. And then those clients go on to get the results. And they experience you and they experience your transformation. The too expensive objection is not a price correction. It is a filtering mechanism. What it's actually doing is the market is telling you who is aligned with your offer and who isn't, who is attracted to your offer and who is repelled by it. And A coaching business that's full of clients who choose you at your real price, that business is fundamentally different than a business that is full of clients who were discounted to get into it. We're not discounting, y'all. So I want you to hold on to your price, stand on your price, be firm on your price. I want you to have the conversation. I want you to go through that 4-part framework that we talked about. I want you to reconnect the value. And then I want you to trust. I want you to have faith. And I want you to trust that the right clients are out there, because they are. And they're not going to tell you that you're too expensive. They're going to ask you, how do they get started? Now, before I close, I want to make a very specific connection that I think matters, and I think is really important here. The too expensive objection isn't just a sales conversation challenge, it is an identity challenge. One word that I have kept repeating here in this specific Nick at Noon episode is belief. Belief is tied directly to your identity. So hearing you're too expensive or your price is too high, that isn't just a sales challenge. It's an identity challenge. And here's why it connects to the bigger picture of what we've been building toward all month long here on Nick at Noon. All month, if you have been listening, you know there has been a common thread. So the woman who has spent her career having her workforce labor priced by someone else, she has an internalized sense of what she's worth that was set by institutions and systems, not by her. So your salary number, it's in a band. Your raise, it's a percentage that is determined by a board or a committee. Your bonus is a uniform formula that is applied to the whole team. And here's what I want you to take away from all that. None of what I just described, your salary band, the percentage that you got for a raise, or the bonus that was applied to the whole team, none of that reflects your true value. But it does reflect a system's approximation of your value. That system and that institution that you're within, that's what it's reflective of. And after years of being inside of that system and that institution, the number that the system gave you, it can start to feel like the real number. And it can start to feel like that's what you're worth, and it's not. Building a coaching business, pricing it yourself, and holding that number under objection is one of the most profound acts of reclaiming your own valuation. We're not just reclaiming our time, we are reclaiming our value. Because what it says is the number that I say, it reflects what I know my work is worth. Not what the salary band said, not what the performance review confirmed, what I know from what I've built, from what I've delivered, from the results that I've watched happen for the people that I've served. And I want to be very clear here. Very clear. This is not arrogance. This is the identity shift from employee to entrepreneur when it is fully expressed. And every single time you stand firm on your price when someone pushes back, you put in a vote for that identity. You say, I set this number and it is what it is. It holds. I'm standing firm on it. And those votes, they build a business and a self-concept that compounds over time. Listen, if there has been something that I have said in this conversation that has made you pause, that has given you something to think about, if there was an aha moment, I want you to give this video a thumbs up. If you learned something that you didn't know before, if you've heard something that you haven't heard before, I want you to give this video a thumbs up. And before I close, I have to come back to what I mentioned at the top of this episode. And that is on May 30th, I am hosting Her Income Lab. If you have not heard about it, where have you been? Because I have been talking about it all month. It is the very first live workshop that I am hosting in 2026. And we are going to build your coaching offer together in real time. And here's the connection to Her Income Lab that I don't want you to miss from this conversation that we had today. You cannot hold a price with conviction if you don't have complete clarity on the value of what it is that you're offering. And you can't have complete clarity on the value of whatever it is that you're offering if the offer itself isn't clear. So, Her Income Lab, that is where we're going to build your offer. It will be clear, it will be specific, it will be priced at what you're worth, and the value of your offer will be able to be articulated in a way that makes the reconnect step in today's framework feel very natural to you. So registration for the workshop, it opens in May. The women who are on the wait list, they are first at the registration, and they also are getting special wait list pricing. If you are not on the wait list, get on the wait list. What you waiting for? The link is in the description, or you can go to my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop. Here's the truth about all of this entire conversation. Somebody somewhere is going to tell you that you're too expensive. Is that a bad thing? Because when they do tell you that, you have a choice. You can fold, you can discount, you can treat their objection as confirmation that you overreached, or you can go ahead and apply the framework that I just gave you. You can pause, you can clarify, you can reconnect to the value, and then give them a decision that they need to make. The price you set, it reflects what you believe your work is worth. And every conversation where you stand firm on that price, even when it's uncomfortable, because baby, it's going to be uncomfortable. When you put that price out there and the person on the other end of the call or the other side of the table, and they see that number and you be quiet and that silence while you're waiting for that person to make a decision, that silence is uncomfortable at first. So every conversation, when you hold on to your number, that is a vote for the business and the identity that you're building. I don't want you to let someone else's readiness determine your pricing. I want you to let the value determine it. And I want you to let the right clients find their way to a yes at a price that reflects the value. Now, I want you to come back tomorrow for Thursday. On Thursdays, I always give you a hot take. I really lean into my perspective about things and give you my POV. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on so you don't miss a beat. Not only do I do these lives Monday through Friday at noon Mountain Time, but I also upload a curated video every single Sunday at 7 p.m. Hello on YouTube. Thanks for joining. So yeah, tomorrow, noon Mountain Time, I will be here with my hot take about something that is going on in the coaching industry. I would say that my perspective is usually not one that you hear often in these streets. The link to get on the wait list for her income lab is down in the description, or you can go to my website at herincomelab.com/workshop. Registration for the workshop opens in May. I don't see any questions or comments here in the chat. So thank you so much to each and every one of you that popped in on today's conversation. This one was a good one. This one was a good one. You are too expensive, or are you too expensive, right? We talked all about it. We talked about where that belief even came from. So if you missed it, make sure you catch the replay. All right. I will see y'all tomorrow at noon for Hot Takes Thursday. My name is Nick Scott. I am the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit, and I really do enjoy these conversations. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.